So, what could politics be like with no politicians? What would be left of politics with no politicians? What I want you to imagine is if political ideas themselves, separate from the people who propose them, could communicate directly with each other, combining, collaborating, conflicting, and compromising. But how could that be possible? Think about this. When our country was young and an urgent message had to be delivered, someone might have had to ride a horse for miles to go knock on a door to deliver it. But now, we can invisibly bounce a signal off a satellite in space and make a phone call, urgent or not. Around that same time, it was also someone's job to ring a bell and scream official news into the streets. But today, with just the click of a button, someone can make a social media post that could be seen potentially by hundreds of thousands of people all over the world in mere moments. Because over the years, technology has replaced that once crucial role of the human being as the carrier and transmitter of others' messages. Politicians, however, are still the physical carriers and transmitters of their constituents' messages, occupying relatively the same role since the 18th century. Metaphorically speaking, they are the horse riders sent off to Washington to ring bells and scream on our behalf. But what if technology could replace that role? What if technology could enable people to represent themselves and directly participate in federal legislative government themselves? Politics without politicians. Consider an online government model using which a person would not need to elect a politician for their platform because they could simply upload their own platform. In that way, someone's voice is their vote. And unlike with a system of voting, someone would not necessarily need to participate in order to have representation. They would just need to check to see if their platform has already been represented. Because not only would a system like this not rely on the traditional politician to operate, but it also would not rely on majority rule, like in a democratic republic. And that's because it wouldn't be one. The internet government is a system of representation of perspectives, not people, which means it operates by what I call abstract meritocracy, which is the calculated contextualized merit, not majority. Just imagine if society's political ideas altogether could debate directly with each other, each of us able to make a contribution. In a model of abstract meritocracy, we may be able to counterintuitively get closer to our democratic ideals, just like how counterintuitive it may at first seem to send a signal to space if you're trying to send a message to home. Because in a system in which the majority does not rule, minority groups are no longer a minority. In a platform which exists online, gerrymandered districts are no longer a problem. And in a platform that replaces politicians and instead has a program, we could coordinate the way that people are working together in such a way so as to defend against corruption, collusion, and bias. Again, if each of us are able to make our contribution, that means we wouldn't have to rely on representation by people who have emotional and ideological blind spots, obvious limitations for capacity and patience, and the ability to be influenced by money and power. By separating political ideas from people and programming a deliberation between them, we could enable the most complex and comprehensive societal communications possible. Put extremely simply, this is how it could work. People would upload their ideas to the internet government. The information would be broken down, cataloged, and then programmed into the perspective to which it applies, being ready for a debate. Processing people's contributions then becomes a process of decentralized content analysis, which cuts through, but also accounts for, the distractions of emotion, passion, and rhetorical trickery, and allows us to get down to our core values and valid arguments of the perspectives themselves. This system is not designed to designate a winner of a given debate. but it's to facilitate the ideation of legislative outcomes with practical merit, to facilitate the ideation of innovative solutions to our issues in public policy. Because there's going to be issues when these digital debates happen. Some topics are just so emotionally charged that people don't care about practicality and logic. A system like abstract meritocracy allows us to find those incorrigible value conflicts so that we are forced to name the non-negotiable beliefs that we are actually talking about, instead of all of the rhetorical reasons around it, which are so much easier to grasp onto or throw around. So what happens when we reach an impasse? When we find one of these incorrigible conflicts in values and we have to face it? What's next? We find a solution to the problem. We start ideating innovative solutions, we feed them back through the system, and we score them mathematically on their practicality and merit. Does that sound so crazy of a thing to do? I don't think so at all. I don't think it's crazy at all. In fact, I think it's the quintessentially American thing to do. Because at our Constitutional Convention, our founders dealt with several incorrigible ideological conflicts. You could not be more diametrically opposed than the Federalists versus the anti-Federalists. Small states wanting equal representation, and large states wanting proportionate representation. And then pro-slavery delegates versus the abolitionist ones. Our country almost did not unite. The United States of America almost never was. Sure, we won the war, but we almost couldn't resolve our internal conflicts. Our Constitution was incredibly innovative for its day, and both it and our country was created, and ever since we've been working on making it better. As for my suggested government upgrade, if it seems as though it belongs in some sort of utopian or dystopian sci-fi future ruled by robots, this idea is also not so far away from who we are as you may think, because it actually came from the first American. His works inspired this model. His works inspired me. And when Benjamin Franklin's final speech was read at the Constitutional Convention, he advocated for a united America, for ratification despite the faults in the Constitution, saying, "Thus I consent, sir, to this Constitution, because I expect no better, and because I am not sure that it is not the best." Well, standing in front of you now, 230 years later, seeing that so much about us has persisted, even though so much in the world has changed, given the new technological tools we have to work with, I want to say that I'm not sure that what I have proposed is the best, but that I know we can do better. Thank you.